Hey everyone, welcome to the follow-up video to last week's Tyranid Tactica video on my 1500 point tournament list. So this is just going to be a video recapping what happened at the tournament and what worked and what I think didn't work. So we'll quickly review the list and I'll go over the tournament details. So in my list I had a high fleet detachment with 3 hive tyrants, all with wings and twin-link devours. One hive tyrant had electroshock grubs. For my troops choices, I had 2 mucilid spores, 3 rippers with the tunnel swarm upgrade, that is just deep strike, 2 venom thropes in the elite slot. Then I had 15 gargoyles, the hive crone, and then I had the living artillery formation, which was an exocrine, 3 biovores, and 3 warriors with a barb strangler and just devours. So that was my 1500 point list. So start off by saying the tournament was a ton of fun. I played with 3 really great opponents and I definitely play against them any day. There was just overall the atmosphere there was amazing, and I really hope they do another tournament again soon. So it's a lot of fun and it was pretty laid back too. It was competitive, obviously because it was a tournament, but it was pretty laid back too. Just like it wasn't it wasn't that stressful, tense feeling, but it was great just playing. So yeah, I showed up and I ended up playing against a Space Wolf list first. Again, I'm gonna have trouble remembering all the exact choices in my opponent's list, but do my best to kind of recap them, so hopefully I don't make any mistakes. So I was up against I think there was 2 Wolf Lords. One was in Terminator armor, one just had a power sword, I think it was, and there was 2 Grey Hunter squads with plasmas and meltas throughout them. There was 15 of those wolves, or 5 of those wolves, just like the running ones, not the Thunder Wolves, but the normal ones. The Space Wolf Flyer was there, the transport version, I think that's the Storm Fang. I believe it's called. I don't know if that's the name of the shooty one or the transport one, but it was the transport one I was up against. There was 5 Terminators too, with some storage shields in there. There's a Dreadnought, and I believe that was it. I can't think of. Oh, and a Vindicator that was in there too, so that was pretty scary for my gargoyles. So it was a good matchup for me. He didn't have a lot to deal with my tyrants, so the table had a couple large sections of city terrain in each board section, because we were playing on the what's it called, the runes, or not runes, the Citadel battle mat thing, like with the 6 modular pieces. I can't remember what it's called right now, but so there was a large piece of city terrain on each of the sections in it, so there's 6 different sections, so pretty good terrain for Tyranids, so lots of line of sight blocking. So we were playing Crusade with 5 objectives. He just couldn't handle my flying hive tyrants in the end. He didn't have anything to deal with them. He did get lucky though. He got 1 Skyfire objective. I rolled for it and got Skyfire. I failed every single cover save and jinx save on my Warlord tyrant. But aside from that, all I lost was the gargoyles and that 1 Warlord. So ended up winning the game. It was I think in the end 17-1. He had the 1 Warlord kill. So really good matchup for the Tyranids. So it gave me some decent point spread. And overall, I'm pretty happy with the list so far. Like, everything performed. Living Artillery node did its job. The Chrome was just a nuisance. The Tyrants obviously are just super hard to deal with, and the Rippers did their job too. They just popped up, grabbed an objective. There was nothing he could do because they were just so far away in order to line of sight that, yeah, he didn't have any resources to spend on them while still having to deal with my Tyrants. So yeah, so the list is performing like I thought it was as of the first game. One thing I will say was pretty funny. He flew in with his Storm Wolf, fired at my Crone, got it all the way down to 1 wound. I failed my grounding check, then I rolled a 1 for the wound on him. And then my Crone immediately vector strike the Storm Wolf, dropped it down to 1 hull point, so I was super lucky there. Next game though was up against a Tau list. This one had a lot of stuff I'm not familiar with, so I'm going to apologize if I don't say the formation name exactly right. I believe he had the Hunter Cadre formation. That consisted of, he had a battlesuit commander, no upgrades at all, just stock. A broadside with, like he had that rail rifle thing, with the strength 8, AP2 or 1, whatever it is. And then he had 3 units of Fire Warriors. I think there was 5 in each one. And then the unit of 6 Pathfinders. And then he had, he might have had Crisis Suits in there, I can't remember. I'll explain why. I didn't remember that detail in a second. But then he had 4 Piranhas. I forget the formation name, but it was the one where they can fly off the board and re-arrive and rearm with drones. So that was pretty nasty. As long as they're within 6 inches of the board edge, they can zip off on his turn. So that was kind of a nuisance. Then he had that Riptide formation wing. They had 2 of those super heavy burst cannons, and then one with an ion accelerator thing. And then I think there was 1 fusion rifle and smart missile systems, and they had the stim injectors. So looked like a tough matchup. I always have a hard time dealing with Tau, but we were playing Big Guns Never Tire. So I had 1 heavy support, he had 1 heavy support. We started the game. I actually got lucky the first turn. My Flyrants flew up and killed off 1 of his Piranhas, and also killed off his Warlord and the Broadside, which was super lucky doing that. And then everything else just kind of moved around the table. Then he took out, I think, or I only took off a single wound on my Tyrant. He fired with all 3 of his Riptides, did their super wave fire thing where they get to fire double shots or something like that. And I only took 1 wound on a Tyrant. I was super lucky. But then his Piranhas flew off the table and left a bunch of drones floating about, and I really should have targeted the Piranhas the first turn, because thinking about it, while the Commander and Broadside could have been a threat, the drones is really what kind of screwed me over. So we had a couple drones on the table, and that wasn't too big a deal, but my Gargoyles were in range of his Riptide, so I actually had 2 of them tied up in close combat. I lost a single Gargoyle on Overwatch, which was really lucky. So it was the 2 heavy burst cannons tied up while the Ion dude was out, and I'm not too worried about the Ion guy with my cover saves floating about, because I actually got one of the Venom Thropes to a central piece of terrain. It was the large runes right in the center of the table, and there was like kind of a little archway, so the Venom Thrope hid under there, just like I kind of planned to do with him, and it was like the perfect piece of terrain for it. So he hid there, gave out a nice cover save to any Tyrants who flew in and around there, and even helped the Gargoyles a bit. So I held up his Riptides, and then unfortunately though, those drones that I said were floating about, they actually got into the combat and did enough wounds to slowly peck away at the Gargoyles. Plus then the Piranhas came back, unloaded more drones, so I had to deal with them. So living artillery node helped with getting them at range, and the Tyrants again just popped everything. The game actually only went to turn 3, so turn 3 it came down to him having to get a heavy support kill against my Exocrine or my Biovores, but my Biovores are full strength hit with a 2-up save. So he fired everything he had. He had the Riptides all free, so he fired all 3 Riptides, drones, everything at the Exocrine, but between his armor save and feel no pain he got off a Tyrant, he actually survived with 1 wound, and I killed off all the Piranhas but 1, so he had the 1 Piranha to zip on an objective, and we actually ended up tying the game 6-6, so super tight matchup. Had I been more away at the time, I would have just landed a Hive Tyrant in his deployment zone, because I mean, even if he killed a Tyrant, then it would divert fire away from my Exocrine who needed to stay alive, and then I would have had Line Breaker, or I could have just landed on like 3 Plyrons on an objective and just been like, well, that's contested. So, but anyway, lessons learned there. So just got to be more aware of the time. The list again performed exactly like I thought it would, and I'm overall super impressed. The Rippers did pop up and grab an objective, but he just wiped them with I think it was the smart missile systems, and one of the Riptides, the Ion dude, just blasted them away. So, because there was only actually 3 objectives, so there wasn't many areas for them to go. But anywho, it was a good game. Opponent was really awesome, and it was great because we actually swapped information. I'm hoping to get a game with his gaming group again, so you'll hopefully see tons of new armies and future battle reports over the summer and coming months. So I was sitting pretty good for points, so I tied 1 game against a really tough army, had a good point spread in the first game, and then I was on to my 3rd match, which was against Chaos, and it was a Night Lords army. So this matchup it looked pretty good for me, as you'll hear in a second. Unfortunately for my opponent, he didn't have a whole lot to deal with my Flyrants, which is really just the bane of his army the whole game. So his list was, again, I apologize if I say anything, I'm not too familiar with Chaos. So I was up against a Chaos Lord, and he just had a combined arms attachment. Chaos Lord had the Burning Brand of Scalathrax, I believe it's called, the flamer weapon that he can shoot, and it's also still a pretty deadly close combat weapon. He had a Chaos Sorcerer, I believe he's just Mastery level 2, yeah, Mastery level 2 it was, I think. And then he had, I think they were Chosen. He had one unit with a bunch of plasma rifles. I think Chosen are the guys. Then he had 3 units of, no sorry, he had 2 units of 10 Chaos Space Marines just with plasma rifles, and I think it was a multi-gun. And he had Rhinos with them, and he also had a Rhino for the Chosen. He also had a Chaos Dreadnought with the, a multi-melta. And then he had 2 units of 4 Chaos Spawn with the Nurgle Mark, so they were pretty tough. Toughness 6 I think they were. So they might have been a pain to deal with. They were pretty fast, so I was definitely thinking I need to get them off the board quickly. And then he also had a 10 cultists. I don't think there was any special weapons as far as you know. There might have been a auto cannon thing they have, or auto rifle, whatever it is. And then there was 5 Havocs with 2 missile launchers with the Sky Fire missiles. I forget the name of them, but and then he had 2 auto cannons as well. So it was Emperor's Will, and so I did what I planned to do with my Living Artillery node. I just castled up with a Venom Thrope in on my objective, and it was in a nice large ruins with. There's a few areas for line of sight blocking, so I tucked the Venom Thrope back out of line of sight, and he just provided cover to everyone. And yeah, unfortunately for my opponent, my flyers just flew ahead and picked apart his army, popping rhinos, and he did get forward with his spawn, but I was able to kind of injure them enough that by the time he hit my lines, there was only I think 3 spawn, and they were injured. So they made it in with my Bi-Wars. Actually didn't cause any wounds. I was really lucky there with my saves. I think I made like 3 or 4, or like 4 or 5 saves actually. Like it was quite a bit. So I rolled really well with them. Then I just charged him with my Warriors, Venom Thrope, Exocrine, and my Gargoyles, jumped back to support, and just between the volume of wounds I did, I just ended up taking them out, and then the Flyers just picked apart the rest of his list, and there's just nothing he could do. It was a really unfortunate matchup for him, because, I mean, with my 4 Flyers, he just didn't have much to really handle them. So I ended up winning that game. It was 9-0, so I got max points there. Really great game, and look forward to playing that opponent again. We swapped info as well, so hopefully you'll see some future battle reports with him too. So lots of potential for new opponents, so it was great. And so it's something pretty solid for points. The list performed really well. So they actually made the announcements for all the awards. They don't like actually give out the rankings at the Games Workshop store, which is fine. They do awards for best painted, best general, most sportsmanlike, and best overall. And I actually ended up winning best overall. So I was really surprised by that. I didn't think I was gonna walk away with that award, but overall the list performed really well, and super happy with the performance. Almost everything did exactly what I thought it would do, and yeah, so overall the Gargoyles worked perfectly as a screening unit with the Venom Thrope in the central area just supporting them. Crone did his things. I mean, the Tyrants, obviously, they're hard to deal with, and I found they diverted enough fire away that my opponents couldn't focus on the Rippers, because when I placed objectives, I would try and put one in my backfield for my Living Artillery node to hold, and then if I had a chance to place a second objective, I would put it kind of in a far area away from my objective, so that way my opponent would have to focus on my area, and then I could use the Rippers to fly up and claim that other objective. And I was going to use my Tyrants, depending on where my opponent deployed, or if I had to go first, I would just fly them over towards the lone objective, clear it off, and then boom, my Rippers would come up. And it worked perfectly in the first game. My Tyrants cleared off a Vindicator and those Wolves, and then my Rippers popped up on a line of sight, and boom, they just held that objective the whole game. They slowly hurt themselves a bit. I think I almost lost one base due to their stupid instinctive behavior, but I mean, they have enough wounds between them that they show up turn 2, turn 3 you start doing instinctive behavior, plus Flyers are still kind of zooming around. They might get them back in Synapse, so it's not a big deal. But yeah, I'm really happy with the Living Artillery node. I think it was the right choice in the end. They cleared off infantry units perfectly. I don't think I actually missed once with the Biovores all day, which I was really lucky. The Exocrine, he I know he's kind of hit and miss with a lot of lists, but man, did he ever perform well. He just floated around kind of midfield, and if anyone got close, he'd just blast them with his template, and that reroll scatter helped me a ton. So it was definitely worth it, and the Warriors just did their thing. They didn't do a whole lot, but I mean, they held the objective, kept everything in the backfield and synapse, and yeah, so. But overall, I'm happy with the list, so I hope you got some ideas for your own tournament list, or if you have any suggestions for me, I'm definitely open to them. So thanks for watching. Stay tuned for more Tyranid Tactica, and hopefully I can get in another tournament soon. One of the guys I met's looking to set up a ITC tournament circuit within my region, which would be really great, so I definitely want to get involved in that and get out and play with those guys, because really good fellas and definitely makes for a great game. So again, thanks for watching, and stay tuned for more Tyranid.